Welcome to another edition of Joe's Politics 101. Well, it's 2013. I want to wish everybody a happy new year. I had a nice holiday. I'm starting the new year off afresh, hopefully. I am. I didn't say anything about our Congress and our nation. They supposed to be starting out on a new footing. But from the way it looks, it's all about being the same old as it was in 2012 with this Congress, and especially those individuals on the Republican side of the aisle. Tonight my subject is going to be involving the nomination of Chuck Hagel, Senator Chuck Hagel, as Secretary of Defense. The Republican Party, and let me not say the Republican Party. Let me kind of narrow it down to an individual or two. Linsey Graham, number one. Here's a soft-talking, sweet-talking young man who for some reason seemed to be involving himself directly in every nomination that President Obama brings up. Here's an individual who served 4 years in the Air Force, spent I think some years in Europe as a judge advocate. During the Gulf War, he was recalled to active duty and spent his time in Eastover at the air base, briefing pilots who are getting ready to go overseas. Not one time has he ever set foot in a war zone in a military uniform or spent any time in a combat zone under intense pressure as most of the young men and women that's in uniform today, or that were in uniform in the 60s in Vietnam or wherever we might be having a war. Not one time has he did that. But he seems to have a lot of opinions about the people that are nominated to be Secretary of Defense. Chuck Hagel. I don't know the man personally. I did a little reading about him and watched him over the years since about 1985, 86, somewhere along in there, since he's been in the political realm. And it's nothing about him or anything that he has ever said that would make me feel like that he would be unqualified to hold the position that he's been nominated to be. Now here's how I look at it. Okay? They keep throwing this thing up about something he said about gay people, and something he said about Israel. So let's take a look at that. Somehow, it's all right for people like Linsey Graham, Mitch McConnell, John Boehner, or any of the other people that's been around in the Congress for years and years to have had opinions and made statements about other people or other subjects. Somehow, how is it that somehow you can have radical views about race and be forgiven for it? How is it that you can blow the dog whistle about race and be forgiven for it? How is it you can have an opinion about gay people and be forgiven for it? How is it that you can turn that right around and blame the next person who comes up for a position for having those views when you've been forgiven for what you've done in your past life. You know, a rat goes in a hole and a hypocrite follow him. The rat come out of the hole and the hypocrite come out and say he never went in the hole. You know, it don't make sense, these people, and what they're doing. They hide behind things that are not factual. They hide behind lies and deception. You know, if you don't like Chuck Hagel and you don't think he can do the job, come out and say why you think he can't do the job. Don't say because he said this about a gay person or he said this about Israel. Come out and say why. Tell the damn truth about why you don't want him there. You know, he's a Republican. Okay? And I don't blame all Republicans for the radical, deceptive, lying ones that, like Linsey Graham, or John Boehner, or Mitch McConnell, or Rand Paul. I don't blame all Republicans for that. I look at the individual person. I listen to what the individual person says. And Linsey Graham is a jerk. He is a twerp of a man. You know, him and John McCain, even though John McCain have been in the military and he suffered, I have to say that he suffered in a prisoner of war camp. But for him as a man, as a real man, he's a joke. Linsey Graham is a joke, period. He's got some issues with President Obama that's hidden. I call them hidden agendas. That everything the president does, or let me just put it this way, anybody with a skin color that's different than his, he seems to have a problem with. I remember back he had a problem with Eric Holder. Then he had a problem with Susan Rice. He has a problem with President Obama and President Obama's decision as a whole because of who President Obama is. It's not because of the policies. If George Bush had nominated Chuck Hagel to be the Secretary of Defense, Linsey Graham would have been on board. John McCain would have been on board. Mitch McConnell would have been on board. All of them would have been on board. But this is a Democratic president. This is a Democratic president nominating a Republican senator to be in his cabinet. And by the way, it's a person who has experienced the realities of having to be in the war zone as a enlisted man. I take pride in that. I take pride in Chuck Hagel getting the opportunity and having the opportunity to do that because he can understand exactly what a young man, a young woman is doing out there in that field under that pressure. There's a lot of pressure just being in the military. Just being that person that you have to be every day that you get up, put on your uniform. It's got to be a certain way. You got to carry yourself in a certain way. You got to respond to requests and orders. Linsey Graham can't do that. It's funny, somehow, why is it he has never been considered for a cabinet position? Why is it he has never got past the primary in a presidential campaign or primaries? You know, because he's flawed. He's a flawed individual. And flawed people don't get to be important, hold important positions, or be President of the United States of America. Now these people like Linsey Graham, Mitch McConnell, and all them, they've been around too long. They think they know too much, when in fact they really don't know anything about any of what they're supposed to be doing. If he would spend more time representing his community rather than trying to involve himself in things that he's not even involved in, he would probably make a better person of himself. He would probably do a better job at what he's supposed to be doing. You know, actually, he needs to move on. Go be a lawyer. Go do what he do. You know, he's a crook to begin with. You know, and I'm not saying all lawyers are crooks. But Linsey Graham, you can just look at the little squeaky talking dude, and you know he's a lie. He's a pansy. You know, you don't see a lot of people gathering around him. Him and John McCain is probably the best two buddies in the world. You know, John McCain need to go ahead and retire, take his bitterness and go on about his business. Linsey Graham need to go practice law and just get out of the national picture. Get out of it, because nothing they're doing is making any sense. You know, the thing that they did to this young lady Susan Rice, that wasn't politics. That was direct personal attack on that woman. And what they want to do with Chuck Hagel, it's personal. Because you have a right in this country to speak the way you feel like you want to speak. Somehow it's okay to talk bad about Hispanics, Afro-Americans, or any other Arabs or anybody else, but somehow it's just downright against the rules to say anything bad about Israel. Anything bad about Israel? You can't say anything bad about Israel? Come on. People, pay attention. Pay attention to how these people are acting. Reality. Reality. I have a right to say what I want to say about Israel. I have a right to say anything I want to say about Benjamin Netanyahu or any other Jewish person that I know. Chuck Hagel has that same right to voice his opinion about whatever. Somehow we've got to be tied, this country, America, my country, has got to be tied to the ankles of Israel, because Israel is Israel. Israel is right. Is Israel right all the time? What does Israel do for the United States of America? That's the question I have. If they want to make an issue out of it, what does Israel offer and have for the United States of America? Just like the people of Israel suffered during World War II, the Afro-American people of the United States of America suffered greatly. During peacetime in the United States of America, do we get any special considerations? Do we get any special anything? You know, I take exception as a person, as an individual. I take exception to the fact that this man or any other American citizen, politician, civilian, everyday person is going to be pounced upon because they make a statement about Israel. You know, you go after the president saying he doesn't support Israel. Has he changed any policies? That Israel is not receiving the things that they have always received from the United States of America? Give us a break on this Israel-United States relationship crap. The relationship is the same. This president is no different than the other presidents towards Israel, and I don't believe it's going to change. Now, if Israel involves itself in a war that we don't approve of, I think it's right that we should not get involved. We are their allies and we'll help them. But if they do something that we don't think they should do, then I don't think we should get involved. Now, that's me. Now, I don't know how Mr. Hagel would come out on that end, but I'm just giving you my opinion. Israel's no different than any other country. It's a country in the Middle East. We're allies with it. But that don't mean that they tell us what to do in this country. They don't do anything for us. We do for them. And that's where I stand on that issue. Anyone who disagree with me, I welcome your opinions. I welcome your opinions. But to be using this as something to degrade Chuck Hagel or any other person that might have said something about Israel is ludicrous. It's hypocritical. Because the person that's accusing him of saying it has probably said it somewhere along the line or said it about some other people or nation. So let's be for real about it. That's Joe's Politics 101, my rant for today. And if you decide you'll watch this, I want to thank you for it. Because it takes a minute to watch any of these things that I put up, because I can't post them on a short 2 or 3 minute, because I can't rant that.